Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing.
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Without further ado, I am going to plunge in, and I have to tell you, the news is pretty depressing and dispiriting. And not good, not good. Anyway, I'll plunge in with what Barbara Magnoff says. Lovely Lady C, thank you for that. I certainly don't feel lovely today, I've got to tell you. On the contrary, I feel really dispirited. It's dark times, it certainly is. Depressing sometimes, certainly, definitely today of all days. I find comfort in this channel. There is always something of interest. Thank you very much for that. We are inundated with celebs and their depravity. That is not in our best interest. No, it isn't. Well, I'm going to tell you something that we are living in a celebrity obsessed age where in the Bible it warns you against false idols. Of course, we do not live in a particularly religious world. In fact, the Western world is resolutely secular and often anti-religious. The irony is that the theocratic world, which is even more repressive, does actually have some religiosity. But I'm going to read out because I have some really important news to impart. So I'm going to read out what her indoors, some of these names, says, and I will impart it during answering the question. Lady C, I'm so worried about how things are going and people calling for the end of the monarchy. What is your opinion? Well, there is definitely a concerted attempt to get rid of the monarchy. We have an anti-monarchist government, which has just swung to the left. It's now been taken over by their own account, the radical element, which has called for an end to the moderate Blairites. And they are openly calling to cease all cooperation with anybody who is capitalist or who is interested in wealth creation. They are rankly, resolutely socialist, but not in a positive way. Am I worried about the monarchy? Well, it survived possibly worse than this, although this is the whole Andrew business and Sarah business is terribly sleazy. And I have been saying for some time now that the worst part of it was not going to be the Epstein part, but the financial part. Well, we are at the moment stuck with the Epstein part. But I'm going to tell you something that a member of the royal family, a senior member of the royal family, said day before yesterday. First of all, the king is in a much worse health and much worse shape than he appears to be. all of this has had a devastating effect upon his health. The rest of the family are distressed beyond measure by the turn things have taken. They had no inkling whatsoever of what was going to come as a result of the drop of the Epstein files. None. Now, it has to be said that some of what is being covered in an exaggerated fashion, and some of it is just media whipping things up hysterically, but some of it is deeply concerning. Hence why the King and the Queen and the Prince and Princess of Wales have all announced, as did Prince Edward, solidarity with all of the victims. And William and Catherine and Charles and Camilla are fully behind any police investigation into any possible wrongdoing involving Andrew and Epstein. They know there's nothing untoward in terms of anything carnal. How do they know? Because Andrew has always had police protection. They have the confidence of his having always had security, as Harry and Meghan would put it. What is emerging in terms of his communications, email-wise, with Epstein, in terms of information that he, as a trade representative, trade ambassador for Britain, would have given Epstein, is something else again. I am all in favor of anybody who should be investigated to be investigated, as are they. If he has nothing to hide, it's fine. They know he has nothing that is going to affect him in terms of anything carnal. But at this point, they are not so sure that there's not going to be something embarrassing that emerges in terms of the financial dealings. But it's not only Andrew, it's also Peter Mandelson. I can see both Peter Mandelson and Andrew having an arguable defense in that they were not giving Epstein information so much as asking his expert opinion on something financial. Now, it so happens that whenever I impart information of this kind, some people choose to misinterpret it. And I am going to ask them to not misinterpret information that is given when it is sound. Imparting information is not the same thing as issuing approval. To those of you who don't know the difference, I'm sure most of people listening on this channel will know the difference, unless, of course, they are the paid disruptors who have been all over this channel intermittently for some time now, and certainly recently have been all over it like lice. Sarah, Colorado says, Dear Lady C, I do hope you see my question. May I ask what your thoughts are on Prince William's visit to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, with the private tour of At-Turayf by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Not 24 hours ago, their office issued a statement of solidarity regarding the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Now he is seen associating with a man who likely ordered the snuffing out of Jamal Ahmad Khashoggi, called Khashoggi in the West. While I'm a Yankee, I am also a royalist, if that's possible. Of course it's possible. You can support whomever you please. And I fear what we are watching is similar to what the houses of Romanov and Bourbon experienced before their respective collapse. I've been making that point as well. I continue to pray for your recovery. May God bless you and keep you. Thank you very much. And I would ask everybody who is inclined to do so to continue to pray for my recovery, because I need all the prayers I can get. Prince William is on an official visit as a representative of the British state. He is briefed by the government. He is acting on behalf of the British nation. He is representing British interests in a foreign country, which is effectively ruled by the crown prince of that country. It is not in his place to be refusing to act on behalf of British interests because of accusations, founded or unfounded, are beside the point. With regard to any part that Mohammed bin Salman might or might not have played in the demise of Jamal Khashoggi. Now, I am very friendly. Some of my closest friends are in business with the Khashoggis. So I'm not exactly ignorant on the subject. And obviously, I would be sympathizing with my friends in terms of any loss they suffered. But they themselves have made their peace with the fact that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia has denied all responsibility. I don't think beyond that I need to make a point. The fact of the matter is that in realpolitik, you don't always get to choose whom you are going to be dealing with. And you have to deal with the realities of who and what are there. And to the extent that it is in your interest to accept an explanation for the duration that it suits you to accept the explanation, you do. You know, politics, the reality of governance, is not the soapbox that people on the internet seem to think it is. It is the reality of what goes on in the world and with whom you need to deal. As for the possible collapse of the British monarchy, there's a concerted attempt to bring it down. Will it succeed? I hope not. because nobody is perfect, but our monarchy has served us as have all constitutional monarchies. They serve democracies far more effectively than republican forms of government do. You only need to look at the constitutional monarchies that have survived and see the monarchies that have collapsed and see the state of the countries of the monarchies that collapsed to see how healthy a political system, the void created by having a constant head of state and constant representatives of the national life are. Floyd Drain says, "It is interesting that you point out Epstein was a sleaze and dishonest from the get-go, and that it was clear to you because of his skullduggery in attempting to steal your friend's apartment from her." Well, it was self-evident. I mean, the man was little better than a crook. In fact, he was a crook. He's simply a crook who didn't go to prison for being a crook. But he didn't go to jail for being a thief. He went to jail for being a pervert. He should have gone to jail for both. But he didn't. What mystifies me in all of this kerfuffle is that no matter how often or how much I condemn Epstein for what he did and what he was, people decide who have an axe to grind. I think often the Sussex squad and Harry and Meghan's followers, who've been trying to shut this channel down, or at least to, shall we say, affect my credibility. And they are all over the internet at the moment, I am assured, saying that I have said things I haven't said and ignoring the things that I have said and just being the creeps and jerks that they are. But one cannot bog oneself down too much with people of that ilk, because, and also, it doesn't behoove one to pay them undue attention, although it has to be said, of what I've been learning recently, it does pay to give them the attention that is due to them. J.M. Cowdill says, "Dear Lady C, thank you for your always balanced commentary. It helps me see both sides of issues clearer. Thank you very much for that. I get comments like that all the time, and they mean a great deal to me. It means that I am not a lone voice in the wilderness, and that people actually are listening to what I'm saying. I'm all for clarity of vision and understanding. A lot of the other commentators and journalists and reporters, their aim is not for clarity of vision or understanding of the reality of what is going on and to take a measured view of things. Their aim is to whip up their viewers and listeners so that they end up cauldrons of passion, blinded by emotion, rather than having a clear and a calm understanding of the realities of what's going on. If people choose to listen to what I say and then don't decide that I have said what they have decided I have said when I haven't said it. It is quite obvious that J.M. Cordial is representative of many people who do listen and do appreciate what I have said. And to all of you who send in messages like this, thank you very much. They mean a very great deal to me at all times, but especially at a time like this, when I am assured, under assault, not only on this channel with all sorts of people who, some of whom we know who they are, who are trying to inject poison, but also I am told by, including my son Dima, that there are calls on the internet for me to be arrested. I mean, you talk about insanity. What am I going to be arrested for? For speaking the truth? For using accurate medical terms? For not being a dumbo and a jerk and a creep like some of the people who are evidently out there fulminating? I mean, spare me. But I've said I don't want to even know about them, but I have been told of their existence. What they're saying, I don't want to know. I couldn't sully myself by even listening to some of what they're saying. But I gather that some of it is pretty ominous. So now we come to one of the less, shall we say, offensive, but nevertheless deliberately offensive people. Her name is Bessie Berkeley, and she says, "So, Lady Campbell," I'm not Lady Campbell. That's the first thing. "It looks like your favourite man, Andrew Windsor, will bring down the monarchy and not the Harkles." Oh, my goodness, Bessie Berkeley, aren't you going to be thrilled? You, Meghan and Harry, and all of you types. Oh, such a thrill. "Charles and Camilla put out statement," surely you meant a statement or the statement, "saying they will talk to the police anytime." H-E-H. Yes, Bessie Berkeley. Both the Prince and Princess of Wales and the King and Queen have put out statements saying that they encourage cooperation with the police. Quite right, too. If Andrew has broken any laws, he should be held accountable, as should Peter Mandelson, as should Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Bill Gates. Oh, should I stop there? Oh, I suppose I'm supposed to stop with just the royals. Well, I don't know, Bessie Berkeley, if you're one of the Sussex squad who have been trying to discredit me for years, so far unsuccessfully, and you're going to remain unsuccessful because I choose my words very carefully, as many people have observed, and my opinions are always sound and solid, and they turn out usually to be right. And when it turns out that I'm wrong, I hold my hands up and say I'm wrong, and say where I was wrong and why I was wrong. But you and your type have been recently extremely active on this channel. Now, I don't know if you are a Sussex squaddy, or if basically you're someone who's decent and misguided. I mean, you could be. You could be. Many decent people get the wrong end of the stick, and I'm perfectly willing to accept that they do. But I suspect you are a smart aleck jerk just by the way you did phrased the whole of your comment. Which invites me to conclude that you don't have the capacity to think rationally, and you are so obtuse that you make unsustainable comments which fly in the face of what I have said over the years, just because you don't have the intellectual capacity to absorb the meaning of the words I use, and you want to mouth off at someone, in this instance me. So I would imagine if you're mouthing off at me when you have no basis for doing so, you most likely spend your life mouthing off at other people equally unfairly. But by calling Andrew my favourite man, you indicate that you're nothing but a sarcastic and asinine creature. So let me put you straight, Bessie Barclay. I'm not afraid of anything I've ever said. If I've had cause to alter my opinion as a result of new and emerging evidence, I have done so. For instance, when it emerged that Andrew had lied on the Emily Maitlis programme, I immediately said that I would never have partaken in the Piers Morgan debate following it. And I was begged by ITV, because I was the only person who would have the courage to actually stand up and say what many other people felt and believed, that he was speaking the truth. But they were too cowardly. I'm not a coward, and I'm not going to be cowed by bullies either. And that includes you, Bessie Snide so-and-so Barclay. Andrew's my favourite man. I've made it absolutely clear over the years that on the occasions I've met him, I've not even liked him. Just because I am moral enough and decent enough to say that I think somebody is being unfairly treated when I think he is, even though I don't like him, that doesn't make me a lesser person. It makes me a greater person, because it means I was doing it without personal feelings involved. I hope that much is now clear to you. I make no apology for being empathetic enough to understand why weak and stupid people, or even intelligent people, behave badly when they are trapped in situations. Nor do I apologize for having enough of a sense of proportion to understand that some of the more bizarre comments that are now being promulgated as if they were fact are farcical. For instance, that babies were being sacrificed and consumed. I mean, in the presence of Secret Service and Royal Protection officers. I mean, what planet are people on to believe such claptrap? I mean, don't they realize that the witnesses become accessories to or after the fact if they don't report it? I mean, what crazy nonsense are we supposed to believe? It is an established fact that some of the emails are inventions, that some were actually created by Epstein, who was a notorious blackmailer, for the purposes of laying trails. And now everything he's written or said or anybody else has said is supposed to be an absolute fact. I mean, may I point out to you, if you have never heard of Carl Beech and Tom Watson, the deputy head of the Labour Party, who spent years, Tom Watson, promoting this fantasist Carl Beech, who had the most dreadful lies to tell about conservative politicians. Leon Britton, who went to his grave as a result of some of the lies that were told. Lord Bramall, a hero. Also, Harvey Procter, whose life was destroyed yet again, while Tom Watson was busy saying that all those crazy lies about taking advantage of children, and again, all of the crazy stuff that is now being repeated in the Epstein matter. And finally, the police had to face the fact that Carl Beech was a fantasist. He went to prison, a very long sentence, but he's been given early release. Surprise, surprise. Tom Watson, to show you the system in this country, Tom Watson and the corruption that exists at the political level. That's right, the corruption at the political level. Tom Watson was ennobled with the understanding that he had to use his maiden speech to the House of Lords to recant, which he did. My own opinion is that level of individual shouldn't be in the House of Lords, much less the House of Lords. Well, if you're too dumb, and it seems an awful lot of people are too dumb to see what's going on and how this scandal is being capitalized upon in the United Kingdom by the anti-monarchist Labour Party and the anti-monarchist government, as well as the anti-Blairite wing of the Labour Party, and how they have, in the last day or two, forced Keir Starmer to the left. I will read out to you what the Blue Labour, the radical wing of the party, have said. A willingness to look the other way for factional reasons, blind to how it looks to the outside world, and for what? In the careerist scramble for a brief moment in the limelight, all imagination and curiosity are crushed. And so we are left empty of ideas and empty of soul. How far we have fallen as a party. This must be the end of New Labour. And what are they doing? They're demanding that the government revamp its economic ideas so that anybody who can make money should not make money, but should support those who don't want to make money, who are too lazy to make money or can't make money. You are happy to join the cabal please feel free, but don't try to be snide with me. And I tell you, Bessie Barclay, if I ever see another comment like that from you, I'm gonna block you. This channel is not for swine or for clever dicky birds. It's for people who are respectful and who, if they disagree with respect. They don't abuse me. I am not being abused and letting you or anyone else get away with it when I decide I have had enough. And you are being used by me to give a strong, stern message that I have been informed what's going on, and I have been informed how Meghan and Harry and their people are trying to use this to bring me and my channel down. And not only Meghan, by the way, but evidently even other YouTubers who are trying to make their reputations on my back and happy to lie about me. Well, I've made my position clear. And I will end with what Angela Ryman says. Thank you for being cautious and measured in your comments. This has been tawdry, long-standing and damaging to the royal family. Your life experience and cool judgment are helpful in reining in our hot disgust. Thank you. Well, as you can see, I now have hot disgust at some of what is going on. And believe me, an awful lot more is going on behind the scenes than people realize. Sadly, the mainstream media have been whipping up people because they are irresponsible. They do not want a reasoned and a balanced view of what is going on. They simply want to be wallowing in righteous indignation and effectively abusing people. Now, it's really rather ironic that I am being abused by cabals when I have a well-known track record for having survived 4 bouts of abuse that people know of in the past. The first, my teenage, when on a daily basis I was subjected to abuse at school, having already been subjected to abuse by the medical profession for their own enrichment and advantage. All of this is a matter of public record. Then, when I was 24 years old, by my ex-husband and his brother, who used the previous abuse to which I had been subjected to make money for themselves. And then the press hopped on the bandwagon and for 40 years continued to abuse me, knowing that they were lying. Then I write my Diana book, and I give a balanced account of Charles and Diana's marriage. And I am abused. I'm called a fantasist, a this, a that. I don't know what I'm speaking about. And as Richard Madeley finally said to me, he said, well, Lady Colin, it turns out you were the only one who knew what was going on, and you were speaking the truth. Nobody accuses Andrew Morton of having chatted a whole load of rubbish when he did. No, not at all. But then again, I suppose Andrew Morton was a journalist, so the journalists weren't going to have a go at him. While I was born into a well-known family, married into another, so that meant that I was the ideal victim, and I was not worthy of human consideration. And what is going on now with certain people is the same thing. Rank prejudice, class warfare, as the Labour Party has said they won't. They want class warfare. And some people are too dumb to see that their righteous indignation is directed at the wrong parties. Now, I am not excusing any wrongdoing that anybody has done, but I'm certainly not prepared to pick up the cudgel and say that somebody has done something he or she didn't do, or to say that they didn't do something they did do. I have been very clear all along about the fact that I condemned Jeffrey Epstein from the word go. I don't like Prince Andrew as he was on the occasions I met him, but since I knew things about his private life that have not got out into the public arena so far, I'm not prepared to out anybody, and who doesn't like it will just have to lump it. I have my conscience, and I have lived with abuse for much of my life. Do any of these Bessie Barclays and Laurens and Paulas and all of the creatures who evidently have crawled out of the woodwork over the period to have a go at me, do they think I give a continental damn about what they think? Because I don't. I have a clear conscience, and I also have clarity of vision, which it turns out not many people possess. And I make no apologies for being measured and for saying that somebody, I find that they have done wrong where they have, and where they haven't, I say they haven't. Or where there's room for doubt, I say, in my opinion, there's room for doubt. People don't have to agree with me. They can have their own opinion. But how dare they have the temerity to tell me that I don't have the right to my opinion? Who the hell do they think they are? They have a right to their opinion, and I have a right to mine. And I have a right to call them out for being idiots after they have proven that they are idiots or they don't know what they're speaking about. Especially after they have said that I have said things I didn't say, or that I didn't say things I did. Anybody who's listened to me with two ears and one brain will figure out that this pile-on, it's not only against me, and it's not only against me, it's against anybody who represents certain traditions. And I make no apology for the fact that I am a monarchist, and that I think that monarchy is, constitutional monarchy, it has to be said, is the best form of government in terms of protecting a nation against the marauding of the politicians. And look at what is going on in our country at the moment. Elections being cancelled illegally, people being sent to jail for little or nothing, but when they've done a whole load of something, if they're the right colour or political persuasion, they are let off. I'm just waiting for them to be sent to Claridge's to the presidential suite. That's the next thing to come. Anyway, on that note, I'll say I've certainly said my piece. And who likes it, fine. Who doesn't like it, that's fine too. I don't like what's going on. I think an awful lot is going on that shouldn't be going on. But I'll be damned if anybody's going to tell me that I have said that I like Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. I mean, what planet are these creatures on? And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. Hopefully, this has not been too, shall we say, pressurized for you. If it has, just don't bother to listen. Skip it. Thank you so much. Godspeed. And if you have enjoyed this, may I ask you to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and hype if you can. Godspeed. Bye bye.